Hi dear, welcome to your favorite audiobook channel Wisdom Flicks, Persuasion Skills of the Ultra-Successful Masterclass Audiobook. What do the world's top leaders, CEOs, and negotiators have in common? They've mastered the art of persuasion. This book reveals their secrets, so you can influence anyone, anytime, with confidence. I intend on the hidden superpower. Persuasion. Let's begin with a simple truth. You are always persuading. Every time you speak, every time you share an idea, every time you try to inspire action, you're engaging in persuasion. Whether you're conscious of it or not, you're influencing how others see you, how they feel about your message, and whether they'll take action because of it. Now here's the difference between the average and the ultra-successful. The ultra-successful know exactly what they're doing. They treat persuasion like a craft, not a coincidence, like a skill to master, not a personality trait you're either born with or without. Persuasion is a hidden superpower, not because it's rare, but because it's often misunderstood. Most people think persuasion is about clever arguments, impressive vocabulary, or a charismatic voice. While those things help, true persuasion runs deeper. It's not about pushing people. It's about pulling them into a story, a feeling, a vision. Why this book matters: if you look closely at the world's top leaders, visionaries, and entrepreneurs, people like Steve Jobs, Oprah Winfrey, Elon Musk, Barack Obama, or Richard Branson, you'll see a common thread, and no matter how different their industries are, no matter how unique their personalities may be, they know how to move people. With words, with presence, with precision. They don't talk just to be heard. They talk to create movement. And that's exactly what this audiobook is about. In the next chapters, we'll dive deep into the persuasion playbook of the ultra-successful. You'll learn not only what they say, but how they say it, when they say it, and why it works. You'll uncover practical tools you can use right away. And most importantly, you'll develop a persuasive presence that earns trust, captures attention, and sparks action consistently. This is not manipulation. This is not trickery. This is not about forcing people to do things they don't want to do. This is about creating such a compelling message, delivered with such clarity and authenticity, that people want to listen. They feel drawn to your ideas. They feel seen, understood, and motivated because of how you show up. That's the magic of real persuasion. What you'll gain by the time you finish this masterclass audiobook. You will understand the psychology behind influence, what actually makes people say yes. Learn the exact phrases, gestures, and techniques used by top performers. Master the art of handling objections, telling powerful stories, and speaking with confidence. Build the kind of authentic authority that earns respect, trust, and admiration, without needing to sell yourself. And perhaps most importantly, you'll develop the courage to speak with purpose and power in any room, on any stage, with any audience. Because that's what persuasion is all about. Leading people into a better future, one conversation at a time. Let's begin. Before we jump in, take a moment to imagine this. You walk into a room full of people you've never met before. There's silence. All eyes slowly turn toward you. And then, you speak. Within moments, you feel it. The room shifts. People lean in. They're captivated, not because you demanded it, but because you earned it. That's the moment we're working toward. And this book, your book, is how we'll get there. Let's begin the journey. Welcome to Persuasion Skills of the Ultra-Successful. Chapter 1. What is persuasion really? What is persuasion really? It's one of those words we've heard 1,000 times. It shows up in books, business meetings, and motivational speeches. But if you strip away the noise, the hype, and the misunderstandings, what remains? At its core, persuasion is the art of ethically and intentionally influencing how others think, feel, or act. It's about aligning your message with another person's mindset in a way that creates movement, internal or external. Let's get one thing clear right away. Persuasion is not manipulation. Manipulation is rooted in selfish gain. It relies on fear, guilt, pressure, or deception to force an outcome. Persuasion, on the other hand, is rooted in clarity, value, and alignment. It invites people towards something that genuinely benefits them. The ultra-successful understand this difference. They persuade not to deceive, but to lead. Not to control, but to connect. They use their words to create possibilities, solve problems, and inspire progress. In their hands, persuasion becomes a service, not a scheme. The misconceptions about persuasion. Many people misunderstand persuasion because of how it's portrayed in popular media. They imagine a fast-talking salesman who won't take no for an answer, or a smooth-tongued speaker who always seems to get their way. They assume persuasion requires natural charisma, extroversion, or a commanding presence. But in truth, real persuasion isn't about personality. It's about process. It's something anyone can learn, practice, and master, regardless of their background or temperament. You don't need to be loud to be persuasive. You don't need to dominate a conversation. You simply need to understand people, know how to communicate clearly, and have the confidence to speak with purpose. The core principle: connection before influence. Here's a secret that every ultra-successful persuader knows. You cannot influence someone you haven't connected with first. That if someone doesn't feel seen, heard, or understood, they won't listen deeply, no matter how brilliant your message is. But the moment someone feels like you get them, they lower their defenses. They begin to lean in. They begin to trust. That's where influence begins. With connection, connection builds trust. Trust opens the door to influence. And influence leads to action. Think of persuasion like planting a seed. If the soil isn't right, if there's no trust, no rapport, no relevance, then it doesn't matter how great your message is. It won't grow. But if you prepare the ground, nurture the relationship, and speak with sincerity, your words take root. They begin to shape thoughts, shift emotions, and eventually spark decisions. The invisible nature of persuasion. One of the most powerful aspects of persuasion is that when done well, it's almost invisible. The best persuaders don't sound persuasive. They sound real. They sound focused. They sound clear. They don't overpower people with flashy words or complicated logic. They lead with simplicity. They invite others into a story. They use quiet confidence rather than loud pressure. And if you've ever listened to a great speaker or leader and found yourself nodding along, feeling drawn in, agreeing without even realizing when it happened, that was persuasion at work. It wasn't manipulation. It was alignment. Your mind and their message met at the same place. The everyday power of persuasion. Persuasion isn't just for politicians, entrepreneurs, or TED speakers. You use it every single day when you negotiate a deadline with your boss, when you comfort a friend and offer advice, when you ask someone to take a chance on your idea, when you pitch a product, propose a solution, or tell a story to inspire. Every one of these moments involves persuasion. The question is, are you doing it consciously and effectively? Or are you leaving it up to chance? The ultra-successful never leave it to chance. They prepare, they practice, they learn what works, and they refine their approach every day in every conversation. This book is your invitation to do the same. The first shift: from informing to persuading. Most people spend their energy trying to inform others. They share facts, details, bullet points, and logic. And while information is important, it's not enough. Information explains. Persuasion moves. The ultra-successful don't just share facts. They frame them. They turn data into stories. They use emotion to bring logic to life. They help people see not just what is, but what could be. If information answers the question, what? Persuasion answers the question, so what? That shift, from informing to persuading, is the first step in mastering influence. Real persuasion is about service. Here's a powerful reframe that will change the way you think about persuasion forever. Persuasion is not something you do to people. It's something you do for them. When you truly believe in your message, when you genuinely want to help, when your goal is to elevate, empower, and serve, then persuasion becomes a form of generosity. You're not pushing, you're guiding. You're not convincing, you're clarifying. You're not taking, you're giving. And that's when your words start to carry real weight. Closing thoughts for this chapter. So, what is persuasion, really? It's the quiet force behind every great leader. It's the skill that turns ideas into movements. It's the bridge between what you know and what others believe. In this chapter, we've unwrapped the core of persuasion: connection, clarity, and ethical influence. From here on, you'll no longer see persuasion as a trick or tactic, but as a powerful, practical, and deeply human skill. One that, when used with integrity, can change lives, including your own. Now that you understand what persuasion truly is, Let's dive into the psychology behind it. Coming up next, the psychology of influence, how the mind works when it's being persuaded, and how the ultra-successful use this knowledge to their advantage. Are you ready to dive deeper? Let's continue. Chapter 2. The psychology of influence. If you want to become a master of persuasion, you must first become a student of the human mind. Because here's the truth. People don't make decisions based purely on logic. They decide based on emotion, and then justify those decisions with logic afterward. This is where the psychology of influence begins. It's not about tricking people. It's about understanding how people think, how they feel, and how they make choices. The ultra-successful know that persuasion isn't just about what you say. It's about how your message resonates with the invisible forces inside a person, their beliefs, fears, desires, and emotions. In this chapter, we'll explore the core psychological principles that drive human behavior and how the world's most influential people use them to ethically and powerfully persuade. The human brain, wired for emotion first, logic second. Imagine this. You walk into a store looking for a pair of running shoes. The salesperson walks up and says, "These shoes are designed with dual-density foam, have a carbon-plated sole, and an energy-returning heel structure." Sounds impressive, but it doesn't make you feel anything. Now imagine they say, "These shoes are worn by Olympic runners. They're designed to give you speed, reduce joint pressure, and make every run feel effortless." Suddenly, it's not just about features. It's about how you'll feel wearing them. Powerful, pain-free. Like an athlete, that's the difference. The ultra-successful tap into that emotional level first. They speak to the human experience, not just the product. Because they understand something most people don't. People buy feelings, not things. They follow leaders, not titles. They respond to emotion, not statistics. And this isn't manipulation. This is being emotionally intelligent and strategically aware. The 6 universal principles of influence. Psychologist Dr. Robert Cialdini, in his foundational work on persuasion, outlines 6 principles that govern how humans respond to influence. These principles are powerful, time-tested, and used daily by the ultra-successful, often without the audience even realizing. Let's break them down. Point 1. Reciprocity. People are hardwired to return favors. When you give something of value, time, help, a compliment, useful information, people naturally want to give back. This is why top persuaders often begin by giving value before asking for anything. They build goodwill and emotional debt. Whether it's a free sample, expert advice, or genuine attention, they know that generosity opens the door to influence. Point 2. Commitment and consistency. Once people commit to something, even in a small way, they feel internal pressure to stay consistent with that commitment. It becomes part of their identity. That's why great persuaders often start by getting small yes responses early in a conversation. A small agreement builds momentum for larger decisions. They help people see themselves in a new light. "I'm the kind of person who supports this," or "I already agreed to step 1. Step 2 makes sense." 3. Social proof. People look to others to guide their own behavior, especially when they feel uncertain. When we hear phrases like over 1 million people trust this product, or companies like Apple and Google use our service, that's social proof at work. It creates instant trust. The ultra-successful constantly use stories, testimonials, endorsements, and evidence of popularity to build credibility fast. Point 4. Authority. We naturally trust those who appear credible. Titles, experience, expertise, and confident communication make people lean in and listen. That's why persuasive individuals often lead with results. "I've worked with over 200 clients in your industry." Or, "Here's what we achieved with a company just like yours." The key is to establish your authority without arrogance. Inform, don't intimidate. Teach, don't preach. Point 5. Liking. We say yes more often to people we like. It's that simple. And what makes someone likable? It's not just a smile or a joke. It's genuineness, shared values, relatability, and empathy. Ultra-successful people connect first. They make others feel heard and valued. They find common ground and stay authentic. Likability opens hearts, and once hearts are open, minds tend to follow. Point 6. Scarcity. We value things that seem rare, exclusive, or limited. Limited time offers, exclusive access, private invitations. All these create a sense of urgency and importance. But here's what separates true persuaders from manipulative ones. They only use scarcity when it's real. When ultra-successful people mention a deadline or a limited offer, it's not a trick, it's a truth. They don't fake urgency, they frame it honestly. The emotional drivers behind every decision beyond the six principles. There are emotional forces that quietly steer almost every decision humans make. These are the deeper currents that persuasive leaders understand and leverage. With care, let's look at a few of them. Fear of loss. People will often do more to avoid pain than to gain pleasure. Highlighting what they stand to lose can be more powerful than promising gains. Desire for belonging. Everyone wants to feel seen, accepted, and part of something bigger. Smart persuaders don't just sell ideas, they create communities. Aspiration and identity. People are constantly chasing better versions of themselves. Speak to who they want to become, and your message will resonate on a personal level. Relief from confusion. Most people are overwhelmed with choices. They crave clarity. If your message simplifies a decision, you become the guide they trust. When the ultra-successful speak, they don't just communicate, they activate these emotional levers. They don't talk at people. They speak into people. The power of framing is how you position an idea in someone's mind. The frame shapes the perception, and perception shapes reality. For example, you could say, "This program costs $1,000." Or you could say, "This is a $1,000 investment that will return 5 times that over the next year." The facts didn't change, but the meaning did. Great persuaders are masters of framing. They control how ideas are introduced, and they shift perspectives without force. They ask, what's the most powerful way to present this information so it lands with clarity and impact? Practical tip. Speak to both sides of the brain. Humans process information in two ways: rationally, through facts, and logic, emotionally, through stories and feelings. The best persuasive messages balance both. They start with a story, evoke emotion, paint a possibility, then reinforce it with facts, proof, and logic. This is why data-driven storytelling is so powerful. It speaks to the heart and the head. Closing thoughts for this chapter. You're not here just to learn tips and tricks. You're here to master persuasion like the ultra-successful do, and that means understanding the deeper human psychology behind influence. Remember this: people are not logic machines. They are emotion-driven beings who crave connection, clarity, and confidence. If you understand what moves them, you can guide them. If you respect their emotions, you can win their trust. And if you speak to both the heart and the mind, your influence will multiply. In the next chapter, we'll explore the power of language, how the ultra-successful use specific words and phrases to grab attention, shift thinking, and spark decisions. The right words, at the right moment, can change everything. Let's continue. Chapter 3. Words that win. Words are powerful. They have started revolutions, ended wars, built empires, and transformed lives. The right words at the right moment can ignite hope, trigger emotion, shift perspective, or close a million-dollar deal. But words are more than just tools. In the hands of the ultra-successful, they are precision instruments, crafted with intention, delivered with purpose, and refined through practice. This chapter explores how the ultra-successful use language not to impress, but to influence. You'll learn which words win attention, how phrasing frames perception, and how language can either open doors or quietly close them. Let's begin with one powerful truth. Every word you speak either builds or breaks trust. Why language matters. Language is how we translate thoughts into action. It's how we transmit ideas from our mind into the minds of others. But the ultra-successful don't just say what they think. They design their words to do something specific, to inspire action, to spark clarity, to evoke a feeling, or to drive a decision. They don't use language accidentally. They use it strategically. Because when it comes to persuasion, how you say something often matters more than what you say. The power of framing. Let's look at an example. A doctor says, "There's a 10% chance this procedure could fail." Now imagine instead, the doctor says, "There's a 90% success rate with this procedure." Same statistics, completely different feeling. This is the power of framing. The way a message is positioned shapes how it's received. Ultra-successful persuaders are masters of framing. They don't just provide information. They shape meaning. They craft language that makes the idea feel more attractive, achievable, or necessary, so instead of saying, "This is hard," they say, "This is rare," and that's what makes it valuable. They don't say, "We're behind." They say, "We're learning fast and adjusting quickly." Framing is subtle, but it changes everything. It's how leaders inspire during setbacks and how salespeople build momentum in moments of hesitation. Magic words that trigger action. Let's dive into a set of high-impact words and phrases that the ultra-successful use frequently in conversation, speeches, and negotiations. These are words that bypass resistance, stir emotion, and subtly persuade. Point 1. Imagine. This word activates the listener's creative brain. It moves people from their current situation into a future possibility. Instead of saying, "This product saves time," say, "Imagine finishing your workday 2 hours earlier every day." The word imagine opens the door to vision. It makes the message personal. Point 2. One of the most persuasive words in any language. Why? Because it's personal. It turns your message from general to specific, from distant to intimate, rather than saying, "This helps people stay focused." Say, "This helps you stay focused, even on your most distracted days." 3. Because this word gives logic to your request. Studies have shown that simply adding a because to your sentence increases compliance, even if the reason is simple. For example, "I'd like to move the meeting earlier because I want to be respectful of your time." The word because makes your intention feel grounded and reasonable. Point 4. Now, this is a trigger for urgency. It turns a passive thought into an active choice. This offer is available now. Start changing your habits now. Take control of your mindset now. The word now creates momentum. Point 5. What if this phrase invites curiosity and lowers defenses? It doesn't force, it suggests. Instead of saying, "You need to do this," try, "What if this one change could double your results?" It turns a command into an invitation. Avoiding words that push people away. Just as some words pull people in, others push them away, often unintentionally. Ultra-successful persuaders are careful to avoid language that sounds defensive. "I'm not trying to offend anyone." Feels uncertain. "I think maybe this could work." Triggers resistance. "You should," or "you have to." Replace should with "you could." Replace maybe with confident framing, like one powerful way to replace "I think" with "here's what I've seen work." Eliminate language that weakens your message. Strengthen your speech with clarity and certainty. The rule of specificity. Vague language creates vague results. The ultra-successful use specific, concrete language because it builds clarity and confidence. Instead of saying, "You'll improve your business," say, "You'll increase your client response rate by 35% within the next 60 days. Specific sell. They also stick. When you're clear, people trust you more. When you're vague, they feel unsure. Even if your message is good. Storytelling. The language of emotion. Facts inform. Stories transform. The ultra-successful speak in stories because stories are the native language of the human brain. They create connection, emotion, and memory. A good story has a setup, a struggle, and a success. It frames the listener's journey through someone else's experience and gives your message emotional weight. For example, rather than saying, "Our new training system improves productivity," you could say, "Last month, Mark, one of our quietest team members, started using this new training system. In just 3 weeks, he went from missing deadlines to becoming our top performer. When I asked him what changed, he said, 'I finally understand how to work smarter, not harder.'" Now that's persuasive. Speak in possibilities, not pressure. Ultra-successful persuaders never sound desperate. They don't pressure. They present possibility. Instead of saying, "You need to take this opportunity," they say, "This opportunity is available, and those who've taken it have seen powerful results." They leave space for the listener to choose. Because persuasion isn't about pushing. It's about pulling the listener forward with vision and value. The subtle power of silence. Here's something counterintuitive. One of the most persuasive tools isn't a word. It's silence. Ultra-successful communicators know when to pause. They use silence after making a key point. They allow their words to settle, their message to breathe. A pause creates impact. It shows confidence. It draws the listener in. It gives space for reflection, and in that space, persuasion takes root. Closing thoughts for this chapter. Words shape perception. They guide decisions. They build bridges or burn them. And the ultra-successful understand that language is not just about communication. It's about connection and influence. As you move forward, remember this. Choose words that build trust. Speak to both logic and emotion. Replace pressure with possibility. And always speak with purpose, because when your words win, your message moves. And when your message moves, so do people. Next, we'll explore how these persuasive strategies come to life in leadership, business, and everyday influence, where persuasion becomes a daily habit, not a one-time event. Let's continue. Chapter 4. Persuasion in Business and Leadership. Persuasion is the driving force behind every successful leader and every thriving business. It's not just a soft skill, it's a strategic advantage. Whether you're leading a team, launching a startup, managing a company, or pitching to investors, your ability to influence others can determine your trajectory. The ultra-successful understand that in the world of business and leadership, persuasion is not optional. It is essential. Why? Because leaders who cannot persuade cannot lead, and businesses that cannot influence cannot grow. In this chapter, we'll uncover how the most powerful leaders and business icons use persuasive techniques, not just to win arguments, but to shape cultures, build loyalty, close deals, and drive lasting results. Leadership is influence at its core. Leadership is not about authority, title, or position. It's about influence, the ability to align a group of people around a common vision and move them toward action. The best leaders don't command, they inspire. They don't manipulate, they motivate. And they do this through persuasion, through the ability to speak with clarity, connect emotionally, communicate purpose, create buy-in, not just compliance. Think about leaders like Nelson Mandela, Sheryl Sandberg, or Elon Musk. They didn't just make decisions. They shared compelling visions. They got people to believe, to care, to act. That's persuasion at its highest level. The language of leadership. When ultra-successful leaders speak, their words create momentum. They know how to speak in a way that energizes teams, removes doubt, and paints a future worth striving for. They use language that unites rather than divides, simplifies rather than confuses, empowers rather than intimidates. Here are a few examples of powerful leadership phrases. Here's what I believe, and here's why it matters. This challenge is real, but so is our ability to overcome it. Let's work together to build something better. Leaders don't just direct. They frame reality in a way that creates belief and action, building buy-in, not resistance. One of the greatest mistakes in leadership communication is forcing change without creating buy-in. When people feel pushed, they resist. But when they feel included, understood, and inspired, they move. Ultra-successful leaders are masters at building buy-in. They do this by listening first. Great leaders don't start with talking. They begin by understanding their people's perspectives, concerns, and motivations. Framing benefits clearly. They communicate how a decision or change helps not just the company, but the individual. They answer the internal question every person has: what's in it for me? Telling stories of possibility. Instead of demanding change, they show what's possible. They say, imagine what we can build together, or here's how this new strategy helped another team succeed. Creating a sense of shared ownership. When people feel like they're part of the solution, they become invested in its success. Buy-in isn't about convincing. It's about co-creating a future people believe in. Persuasive leaders speak with vision. Ultra-successful leaders don't just explain tasks. They cast vision. They help people see beyond the immediate challenge into the broader purpose. They turn deadlines into missions. They turn goals into shared dreams. They turn business metrics into meaningful outcomes. For example, instead of saying, we need to hit our quarterly targets, they say, if we reach this milestone, we'll unlock new opportunities for innovation, growth, and team recognition. Vision gives work meaning, and meaning gives people motivation. Persuasion in business. Selling without sounding like a salesperson. Let's move from leadership into the heart of business. Sales, negotiation, and customer influence. In business, everything is sales. Whether you're selling a product, pitching an idea, or negotiating a partnership, your success depends on how well you persuade others to take action. But here's the mistake many people make. They sell too soon. They push instead of pulling. They present features instead of focusing on feelings that ultra-successful business professionals understand that selling is serving. It's not about convincing people to buy. It's about helping them realize why this solution genuinely meets their need. Here's how they do it. They ask before they tell. They learn the client's needs, pain points, and goals before offering solutions. They tell customer-driven stories. One of our clients had a similar problem. After using this service, they saw a 38% improvement in just 30 days. They focus on transformation, not just transaction. They speak to outcomes, freedom, time saved, confidence, growth, not just the specs or pricing. They stay calm during objections. Instead of arguing, they reframe. Instead of resisting, they explore. They don't push products. They position possibilities. The power of strategic silence in negotiations. In negotiation, sometimes the most powerful move is to say nothing. Ultra-successful negotiators use strategic silence as a tool of power. They make a point and pause. They ask a question and wait. Why? Because silence creates tension, and tension invites the other person to fill the gap. For example, in a pricing negotiation, client, that sounds too high. You, compared to what? Then you pause. Let them respond. Let them reveal their thought process. Don't jump in to defend. Don't rush to drop your price. Silence is not weakness. In persuasion, silence can be a force multiplier, influence. Beyond the meeting room, persuasion in business isn't limited to presentations or sales calls. It's in your emails, your proposals, your Zoom meetings, your interviews, even your company culture. A manager persuades her team to adopt a new workflow. An entrepreneur persuades investors to fund a vision. A brand persuades the public to trust its mission. Every communication is an opportunity to reinforce or reduce trust, to elevate or confuse, to connect or disconnect. The ultra-successful see every touchpoint as a chance to persuade, authentically, consistently, and purposefully. Traits of a persuasive business leader. Let's close this chapter with a quick checklist. Here are 5 traits that define persuasive leaders and business influencers. Clarity. They communicate clearly, without jargon or fluff. Empathy. They understand their audience's fears, goals, and frustrations. Confidence. They speak with conviction, not arrogance, but assurance. Flexibility. They adapt their message based on feedback or resistance. Consistency. Their message, tone, and behavior align over time and across channels. These leaders don't just talk. They resonate. They don't just instruct. They inspire. They don't just communicate. They persuade. Closing thoughts for this chapter in business and leadership. Persuasion is not about having the loudest voice. It's about having the clearest message, the deepest understanding, and the most meaningful impact. It's the ability to move a room without raising your voice, to lead a team through uncertainty with steady hands, to turn ideas into action and action into outcomes. Remember this: you don't need to force people to follow you. You need to give them a reason they want to, and that reason is often delivered through your words, your vision, and your presence. In the next chapter, we'll explore something equally important: how nonverbal communication, body language, tone, and voice amplify your message and boost your persuasive power. Let's continue. Chapter 5. Presence, body language, and voice. Words matter, but how you deliver those words, that's where true power lies. Have you ever heard someone say all the right things, but something just felt off? Maybe their tone didn't match their message. Maybe their posture was closed, or their voice lacked confidence. Now think about someone who walks into a room and commands attention without saying a single word. That's presence. That's nonverbal persuasion. And that's what this chapter is all about. If you want to persuade like the ultra-successful, you must go beyond words. You must embody your message with your posture, your expressions, your tone, and your energy. Because the most persuasive people don't just talk influence, they radiate it. What is presence? Presence is the unspoken signal that tells people, I belong here. I believe in what I'm saying. And I see you. It's the combination of confidence, calmness, and charisma that makes others lean in when you speak. But here's the good news. Presence is not something you're born with. It's something you practice. And the ultra-successful have trained themselves to show up in a way that's grounded, focused, and magnetic. Presence begins before you speak. It continues while you speak. And it lingers after you've stopped. Speaking.so let's break it down into its components. Body language, voice, and energy. Body language. Your unspoken message. The human brain processes visual information far faster than words. In fact, studies show that over 90% of communication is non-verbal. So what you say matters. But how you carry yourself may matter even more. Ultra-successful persuaders use body language intentionally. They don't just stand. They own the space. They don't fidget. They ground themselves. They don't shrink. They expand, not arrogantly, but confidently. Here are key elements of persuasive body language. 1. Posture. Stand tall, feet shoulder-width apart, shoulders relaxed, head level. A. Straight spine signals alertness and confidence. Slouching suggests uncertainty. When you stand tall, you don't just look more persuasive, you feel more persuasive. Point 2. Eye contact. The eyes are windows of trust. Maintaining steady, but not staring. Eye contact builds connection and authority. Break eye contact occasionally for naturalness. But avoid darting or looking away too often. It signals nervousness or dishonesty. Point 3. Gestures. Use your hands to emphasize points, not to distract. Open palms signal honesty and openness. Pointing or clenched fists can feel aggressive. Controlled, purposeful gestures add rhythm and clarity to your words. Point 4. Facial expression. Your face should match your message. If you're expressing excitement, let it show in your eyebrows, eyes, and smile. If you're discussing something serious, soften your expression. Consistency between your words and your face builds trust. Point 5. Stillness and movement. Use movement intentionally. A few steps forward during a key message can increase impact. Stillness during a powerful pause builds gravity. Avoid pacing aimlessly. It dilutes your presence. Body language is your first language. Learn to speak it fluently. The voice, your instrument of influence. Your voice is not just a sound. It's a signal. It tells people how you feel about what you're saying and how they should feel too. The ultra-successful train their voice the way athletes train their bodies, with precision, intention, and care. Let's explore the components of a persuasive voice. 1. Pace. Speak too fast, and you sound anxious. Speak too slow, and you risk losing attention. Vary your pace to match your message. Speed up to build excitement. Slow down to emphasize a key point. And always leave space for silence, because silence makes your words land harder. Point 2. Tone. Your tone reveals emotion. It can express confidence, doubt, empathy, joy, or authority. Match your tone to your message. Use a warm tone for encouragement. Use a firm tone to assert a boundary. Avoid monotone. It disengages listeners. Point 3. Volume. A strong voice isn't always loud. It's clear and intentional. Speak loudly enough to be heard, but adjust your volume to guide attention. Drop your voice slightly to draw people in. Raise it to energize. Modulate to keep your audience engaged. Point 4. Articulation. Pronounce your words clearly. Don't mumble or rush through key phrases. Clarity builds credibility. When people can follow every word, they trust your command of the message. Energy. The invisible influence beyond body and voice lies something more subtle. Energy. It's the feeling you project, the atmosphere you create, the emotional frequency you carry into the room. Energy is contagious. Calm energy soothes. Enthusiastic energy excites. Confident energy inspires. Ultra-successful communicators are emotionally attuned. They regulate their energy to match the moment, not overpower it. They know when to bring intensity and when to bring stillness. To build positive, persuasive energy. Breathe deeply before you speak to ground yourself. Visualize a confident outcome before any big conversation. Speak from a place of service, not ego. Stay fully present, not in your head. Your energy is felt before your message is heard. And often, it's what people remember most. Aligning words, voice, and body. Here's the most powerful lesson of this chapter. True persuasion happens when your words, tone, and body all say the same thing. Misalignment creates friction. For example, you say, "I'm excited," but your voice is flat and your posture is closed. You say, "I understand," but you're glancing at your phone while speaking. People won't remember your words. They'll remember how they felt in your presence. When you align your message across voice, body, and emotion, you become magnetic. Quick practice routine. Build a persuasive presence. Here's a simple daily exercise to sharpen your presence. Stand tall in front of a mirror for 2 minutes. Breathe deeply. Anchor your posture. Recite a short paragraph aloud, something inspiring. Focus on clarity, energy, and tone. Record yourself and play it back. Watch your body language. Listen for vocal clarity. Make one improvement each day: eye contact, hand gesture, vocal pause, or breathing. Do this for 5 minutes a day. Over time, your presence will transform. Closing thoughts for this chapter: words can spark ideas, but presence moves people. The ultra-successful know that it's not enough to sound confident. You have to look it, feel it, and project it. Because people don't just buy your message, they buy you. Your body language builds trust. Your voice creates rhythm. Your energy drives emotion. And together, they make you unforgettable. In the next chapter, we'll explore how to overcome objections and resistance. Because even the best messages face doubt. And how you respond to resistance will determine whether your influence grows or collapses. Let's continue. Chapter 6. Persuasion in Everyday Life. When most people think about persuasion, they imagine sales pitches, political speeches, business deals, or social media influence. But the truth is, persuasion lives everywhere, not just in professional spaces, but in everyday human interaction. From the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep, you're either persuading or being persuaded. You persuade your child to get dressed. You persuade your spouse to try a new restaurant. You persuade your friend to see things from your perspective. You persuade yourself to stick to a new habit, goal, or decision. Persuasion is not just a business tool, it's a life tool. And the ultra-successful use it not only to lead companies, but to build deeper relationships, stronger families, and more intentional lives. In this chapter, we'll explore how persuasion shows up in real-life situations and how you can use it with empathy, clarity, and confidence in your daily interactions. Everyday moments are persuasion moments. Let's begin with an insight. You don't need a microphone to persuade. You don't need a stage. You just need to be present and intentional. Consider these simple examples: convincing your partner to try a new vacation spot, guiding your teenager to make healthier choices, encouraging a colleague to approach a project differently, negotiating time with your boss for a personal appointment, getting your family on board with a budget plan. These are all acts of persuasion. But here's the key difference. In everyday life, persuasion is more about connection than conversion. You're not selling a product. You're aligning people's emotions, values, and goals. The foundation: empathy before argument. Everyday persuasion doesn't begin with a clever argument. It begins with empathy. People are more likely to change their minds when they feel understood, not when they feel pressured. Instead of pushing your point, ask yourself, what is this person feeling? What do they really care about? What are they afraid of or uncertain about? What would make them feel safe to explore a new idea? For example, let's say your friend is resistant to starting a fitness routine. You could say, "Yeah, I get it. It can feel exhausting just thinking about going to the gym. I used to feel the same way. But I started small, just 15 minutes a day, and now I actually enjoy it. Want to try a short walk this weekend together?" That's persuasion done right. No pressure, just empathy, relatability, and invitation. Persuasion in relationships. In close relationships, romantic or familial, persuasion often shows up in moments of disagreement, compromise, and emotional vulnerability. Here's what ultra-successful communicators do differently. 1. They listen to understand, not to win. They don't interrupt or immediately defend. They ask, "Can you help me understand how you're feeling about this?" 2. They affirm before they influence. "You're right. That we've been super busy. That's why I think scheduling a weekend getaway could be good for both of us." 3. They offer options, not ultimatums. Instead of "you never help around the house," they say, "Would you prefer we divide chores by day or by task?" By using persuasion to reduce tension rather than win battles, they build harmony without losing their voice. Persuasion in parenting. If you're a parent, you're persuading all the time. But persuasion with children is about guidance, not control. It's about helping them make better decisions, not forcing them. Instead of commanding, "Clean your room now," try, "How about we clean up together for 10 minutes? Then you can watch your show." Instead of lecturing, "You need to study more," try, "I noticed when you study earlier in the day, you're less stressed later." Want to try that again this week? Children resist pressure, but they respond to respectful direction and ownership. Ultra-successful parents persuade through influence, not intimidation. And they teach their children to become persuaders too, by modeling healthy communication and empathy. Persuasion with friends and social circles, even in casual friendships. Persuasion plays a subtle role, whether it's choosing where to eat, planning a group trip, or navigating a sensitive topic. How you present your ideas matters. Persuasive people in social settings use humor and warmth, not control. Ask open-ended questions. What do you think about? Show flexibility. We could do this, or we could try that. What's best for everyone? Frame ideas as shared experiences. Wouldn't it be fun if we all went hiking this weekend? They don't push. They guide with energy, charm, and consideration. Persuading yourself, here's something most people don't realize. The hardest person to persuade is often yourself. That we all have moments when we doubt, delay, procrastinate, or give up. We set goals, then talk ourselves out of them. We know what we need to do, but struggle to take the next step. Ultra-successful people use persuasion on themselves to override fear, build discipline, and stay on track. They do this by speaking to themselves like a coach, not a critic. I know you're tired, but this matters. You've done harder things before. Visualizing the reward, not the resistance. If I write just one page today, I'm one step closer to finishing my book. Creating systems that remove friction so they don't rely solely on willpower. They persuade themselves daily to stay aligned with who they want to become. Because at the end of the day, self-persuasion leads to self-mastery. The golden rule of everyday persuasion, whether you're talking to a spouse, a friend, a client, or a stranger, one rule remains constant. Speak with the intent to serve, not to sway. When people feel that your words are meant to uplift, help, or empower, not manipulate or control, they naturally open up. And when that happens, you don't need to push. They move themselves. That's what ultra-successful persuaders understand. Influence isn't something you do to people. It's something you create with them. Simple persuasion techniques for everyday life. Here are a few actionable techniques you can use right away. Mirror their language. Subtly use the same words or tone as the person you're speaking to. This builds subconscious rapport. Use first names. People respond positively to hearing their own names. It creates connection. Ask, what would it take? Instead of asking, can you? Ask, what would it take for us to make this work? It shifts the brain into problem-solving mode. Tell mini stories. A 15-second story is more persuasive than 5 minutes of logic. Validate, then invite. I get why you feel that way. Want to hear another perspective? Everyday persuasion is about being more human, not more polished. Closing thoughts for this chapter. Persuasion is not just a business strategy or a public speaking skill. It's a way of showing up in the world with clarity, compassion, and confidence. You don't need a title to influence. You don't need a stage to be heard. You just need presence, purpose, and the willingness to connect. The ultra-successful know that real influence doesn't come from louder voices. It comes from deeper understanding. Use persuasion not to win arguments, but to build alignment. Not to dominate conversations, but to deepen relationships. Not to impress people, but to impact lives. In the next chapter, we'll shift focus inward and explore how to persuade yourself to stay disciplined, focused, and confident, even when no one is watching. Let's continue. Chapter 7. Emotional intelligence and persuasion. When people think of persuasion, they often think of logic, arguments, and the art of crafting the right message. But the ultra-successful know there's a deeper layer that makes or breaks persuasion. Emotional intelligence. While IQ might determine how smart you are, EQ determines how well you connect, influence, and lead. Emotional intelligence is the ability to recognize, understand, and manage your own emotions, and to recognize, influence, and respond effectively to the emotions of others. In the world of persuasion, EQ is not optional, it's essential. It's the difference between pushing people and pulling them in, between saying the right thing and saying it the right way. In this chapter, we'll explore how mastering emotional intelligence transforms your power to persuade ethically, empathetically, and effectively. The two dimensions of EQ in persuasion. Emotional intelligence in persuasion works across two dimensions: internal awareness and regulation. How well you manage your own emotions while communicating. external awareness, and influence, how well you recognize and respond to the emotional states of others. The ultra-successful persuaders are masters of both. They stay calm under pressure, read the emotional cues in a room, and speak in ways that meet people where they are, not just intellectually, but emotionally. Let's break these down further. Self-awareness. The first step in smart persuasion. You cannot manage what you don't understand. Self-awareness means being in tune with your own emotions. Are you frustrated, anxious, overconfident, motivated, calm? Your emotional state affects how you say things, how you react, and what energy you bring into the room. Persuasive people check in with themselves before they speak. They ask, what am I feeling right now? Is that feeling helping or hurting my message? How can I shift into a state of calm confidence? For example, if you're about to pitch an idea and you're nervous, emotional intelligence allows you to recognize that fear, breathe through it, and shift into a more composed state. Before you speak, emotions are contagious. If you don't manage yours, you might unintentionally spread anxiety, defensiveness, or irritation. Self-regulation. Control before reaction. Once you're aware of your emotional state, the next level is regulation, choosing your response instead of reacting impulsively. Let's say someone challenges your idea in a meeting. A low EQ response might be defensiveness, sarcasm, or withdrawal. But a high EQ persuader does this instead. They pause. They breathe. They respond with curiosity, not conflict. Interesting point. Can you help me understand your perspective a bit more? That one sentence shows composure, invites collaboration, and keeps the conversation constructive. The ultra-successful regulate their emotional impulses so that their message stays intentional, even under stress. Social awareness. Reading the room. Have you ever watched someone say all the right words, but at the wrong time? Maybe they pitched an idea when the room was tense, or tried to motivate a team that was emotionally burned out. The result? Resistance. This is where social awareness becomes a game changer. Social awareness is the ability to sense what others are feeling, even if they aren't saying it. It's reading between the lines, tone of voice, posture, pace of speech, and facial expression. It's knowing when to push and when to pause, when to speak and when to listen. Persuasive communicators scan the room. They notice when someone goes quiet, when energy shifts, or when discomfort rises. They don't ignore emotions. They respond to them. For example, if your listener looks confused, pause and reframe. If someone's body language shows disinterest, shift tone or ask a question. If the group is drained, bring humor or empathy before presenting your point. The message doesn't land unless the audience is emotionally ready to receive it. Relationship management. Influencing through connection. The final pillar of emotional intelligence is relationship management, the ability to guide interactions toward a positive outcome. This is where persuasion and emotional intelligence truly blend. You understand your emotions. You recognize others' emotions. And now you're leading the emotional environment. Persuasive people use high EQ strategies to build trust and influence. They mirror emotions to connect. If someone is excited, they match that energy. If someone is upset, they lower their tone to build safety. They validate feelings, not just opinions. I see how this situation could feel overwhelming. Let's explore it together. They ask before telling. Would it be helpful if I shared another approach? They use emotional language to stir movement. This decision isn't just smart, it's meaningful. It's a chance to make a real difference. Influence isn't about overpowering emotion. It's about partnering with emotion and guiding it toward action. Emotionally intelligent language patterns. Here are a few high EQ phrases that ultra-successful persuaders use regularly. It sounds like you're feeling. This shows empathy and invites clarity. It sounds like you're feeling unsure about the timeline. Is that right? Help me understand. Instead of challenging someone directly, they invite perspective. Help me understand what concerns you most about this decision. I see where you're coming from. This builds trust without agreeing. I see where you're coming from. And here's another angle we might consider. Let's figure this out together. This turns persuasion into partnership. Instead of pushing a solution, you co-create it. YEQ is the persuader's superpower. High emotional intelligence makes your persuasion more relatable because you understand what others are going through. Responsible because you influence with care, not manipulation. Resilient because you remain steady when others are emotional. Respectful because you listen first and speak with sensitivity. Lasting, because emotionally intelligent persuasion builds trust, not just compliance. The ultra-successful know it's not about winning moments. It's about building relationships that endure. Strengthen your persuasive EQ. Daily practices here are simple exercises to build emotional intelligence in your everyday persuasion. Daily check-in, ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? How is that shaping my behavior? Emotional mirror after conversations. Reflect. What was that person likely feeling? Did I respond well? Pause before you speak when emotions rise. Take one deep breath before replying. This habit alone improves 80% of persuasion missteps. Listen without planning when someone talks. Don't plan your reply. Just listen. Truly listen. Reframe criticism as emotion when someone attacks or resists. Look beneath the surface. What fear, pressure, or need might be behind this? Practice these, and over time, persuasion won't just be what you do. It will be how you show up in every interaction. Closing thoughts for this chapter: emotional intelligence is the invisible thread that holds persuasive communication together. It's not about being perfect with your words. It's about being present with your emotions and with the emotions of others. Remember this. People don't just respond to information. They respond to how that information makes them feel, and the ultra-successful never forget that. When you combine emotional intelligence with intention, you create persuasion that's not just effective, but unforgettable. In the next chapter, we'll explore one of the most powerful skills of all: listening. Because the best persuaders are not the ones who talk the most. They are the ones who listen the best. Let's continue. Chapter 8. Objection handling like a pro. Every persuasive conversation, no matter how masterfully delivered, eventually meets a wall. Objection. I'm not sure it's the right time. That sounds expensive. I need to think about it. I'm just not convinced. Objections are not the end of persuasion. In fact, they are an invitation to go deeper, to uncover fear, doubt, confusion, or misunderstanding that needs clarity or reassurance. The ultra-successful don't panic when objections arise. They don't argue. They don't force. Instead, they lean in, listen with purpose, and respond with emotional intelligence. They treat objections not as roadblocks, but as stepping stones to trust. In this chapter, you'll learn how to stay calm when challenged, understand the psychology behind objections, respond with clarity, empathy, and confidence, turn resistance into resolution without pressure or manipulation. Let's begin by understanding where objections truly come from. What an objection really is. On the surface, objections sound like disagreement. But beneath the words lies something deeper. Usually one of these core concerns: uncertainty. I don't fully understand this yet. Fear. What if this doesn't work out? Doubt. I'm not sure I trust you or myself to make this decision. Timing. I feel overwhelmed or distracted right now. Value. I don't yet see how this benefits me. When someone objects, they're often saying, I need help making sense of this. They're looking for a reason to believe, not a reason to back down. Ultra-successful persuaders welcome objections because it means the person is still engaged. A no means they're still thinking. A maybe means there's still a chance. The only real dead end: silence or disinterest. Rule number 1. Don't argue. Align. When faced with an objection, your first instinct might be to defend your position. But persuasive professionals know better. They don't argue. They align. Instead of pushing back, they say things like, that's a valid concern. I completely understand where you're coming from. I've heard others say the same before deciding. This does 3 things instantly. It lowers emotional resistance. It shows empathy and professionalism. It opens the door for continued dialogue. Agreement doesn't mean surrender. It means meeting the other person emotionally before leading them logically. The 3-step formula: acknowledge, explore, respond. Here's a simple but powerful objection handling formula used by world-class communicators. Step 1. Acknowledge. Start by showing the person that you heard and understood their objection. Examples: I hear that you're unsure about the cost. Totally fair. You're not sure this is the right time. That's a good question. Many people ask that. Acknowledging doesn't mean agreeing. It means creating emotional safety. Step 2. Explore. Now, gently ask for more clarity. Dive beneath the surface of their words. Examples: Can I ask what specifically makes you feel uncertain about that? What would need to be true for this to feel like a yes for you? What past experience might be shaping your concern? Exploration is where you uncover the real objection, not just the surface excuse. Step 3. Respond only after listening. Do you respond? But respond with precision and care. Examples. That makes perfect sense. Here's how others have solved that concern. You're right to ask about timing. The good news is, this process is flexible. If budget's a concern, we can adjust the scope while still achieving the result. This method turns objections into conversations, not confrontations. Common objections and smart responses. Let's look at some common objections you might face in business, sales, or life, and how ultra-successful persuaders respond. Objection. It's too expensive. Response. I understand. Budget is always a factor. May I ask what you were expecting to invest, or what would make it feel worth it to you? Follow with value reframing. Let's look at what you're getting. Long-term, not just the upfront cost. Objection. I need to think about it. Response. Of course. That's smart. Is there something specific you're thinking through? Or would it help if I clarified anything before you decide? This invites further dialogue rather than ending the conversation. Objection. I'm not ready. Response. Totally understand. Can I ask what ready looks like for you? Sometimes it helps to map out a step-by-step plan so it doesn't feel overwhelming. You're helping the person visualize readiness. Objection. I've tried something like this before, and it didn't work. Response. I appreciate you sharing that. Can I ask what went wrong in that situation? Maybe together we can avoid those same pitfalls. Validate their experience, then show how your solution is different. Advanced technique. Pre-handling objections. One of the smartest persuasion skills is to address objections before they're raised. This is called pre-handling. It builds trust and reduces resistance up front. Examples. You might be wondering about the cost. That's fair. And here's why most people find it worth every dollar. Now, I know timing is tough for everyone. That's why we've built this to be flexible around your schedule. By naming the concern first, you disarm resistance and position yourself as thoughtful and prepared. Objections in personal life. Objection handling isn't just for business. It works in everyday relationships too. Your partner says, I don't think we should spend money on that right now. You totally get it. What's your main concern? Budget or timing? A friend says, I don't feel like going out. You, that's okay. Feeling low energy? Or just not in the mood? Objection handling at home is less about persuasion and more about creating understanding and partnership. Mindset of a master persuader. Finally, let's talk about mindset. When the ultra-successful hear no, they don't take it personally. They don't feel defeated. They don't argue or beg. They stay calm. They stay curious. And they keep the door open. They understand that objections are normal. Objections are emotional, not just logical. Every objection is a doorway to deeper connection. Rejection doesn't mean failure. It's feedback. Closing thoughts for this chapter. Objection handling isn't about being clever. It's about being curious, calm, and committed to the other person's perspective. That it's not a battle. It's a bridge. It's not about convincing. It's about collaborating toward clarity. When you treat objections as an invitation, not an interruption, you turn resistance into results. And that's how the ultra-successful persuade. Not with pressure, but with presence and patience. In the next chapter, we'll dive into a powerful force that amplifies every aspect of persuasion. The psychology of trust. Because without trust, even the most brilliant message falls flat. Let's continue. Chapter 9. Tools and techniques. The ultra-successful use persuasion is both an art and a science. It blends intuition, psychology, and communication skills with tested tools and techniques honed over time. The ultra-successful don't leave their influence to chance. They actively cultivate a toolkit designed to move minds and open doors. In this chapter, we'll explore the most powerful, proven tools and techniques that top persuaders use daily. These aren't tricks or manipulations. They are ethical, respectful strategies that help you connect deeply, communicate clearly, and create lasting impact. Whether you're pitching a product, leading a team, negotiating a raise, or simply influencing your social circle, mastering these tools will elevate your persuasive power to new heights. Point 1. The power of storytelling. At the heart of every great persuasion is a great story. Humans are wired for stories. Stories engage emotions, spark imagination, and make abstract ideas tangible. The ultra-successful use storytelling to create vivid mental pictures, make complex concepts relatable, build emotional bridges that facts alone can't reach. How to use storytelling effectively. Start with a relatable character or situation, show a conflict or challenge, describe the transformation or solution. End with a clear takeaway or call to action. Stories move people because they don't just speak to the mind, they speak to the heart. Point 2. The principle of reciprocity. One of the most powerful persuasion principles is reciprocity, the natural human tendency to return favors. Ultra-successful persuaders use this by offering value before asking for anything, sharing knowledge, time, or small kindnesses, creating a sense of goodwill and trust. For example, giving a free consultation, sharing an insightful article, or simply remembering someone's birthday can build a foundation for influence. The key is sincerity. People can sense when reciprocity is genuine versus transactional. Point 3. Framing and reframing. How you present information matters as much as the information itself. Framing is the art of contextualizing a message to highlight benefits, minimize objections, or shift perspective. Reframing is shifting someone's view to see a situation differently. For instance, instead of saying, "This is expensive," you frame it as, "This is an investment in your future." When someone says, "I don't have time," you reframe by asking, "What if this saves you hours every week?" Ultra-successful persuaders are experts at finding the right frame that makes their message resonate. Point 4. The scarcity effect. People naturally want what is rare or limited. Scarcity creates urgency and value. Use scarcity ethically by highlighting limited time offers, mentioning exclusive opportunities, showing how acting now prevents loss or missed chances. But beware, scarcity loses power if overused or perceived as manipulative. Point 5. Social proof. We look to others when making decisions. Social proof leverages this by showing that others have trusted, used, or benefited from what you offer. Use testimonials, case studies, endorsements, or statistics to build credibility. Ultra-successful persuaders integrate social proof seamlessly, making others feel part of a trusted community. Point 6. Asking powerful questions rather than telling. Asking can be more persuasive. Good questions engage the other person's mind, helping them discover their own reasons to say yes. Examples of powerful questions. What's most important to you about this decision? How would this solution change your daily life? What obstacles do you see, and how can we overcome them? Questions create dialogue, reduce defensiveness, and invite collaboration. Point 7. The foot in the door technique. This classic technique involves starting with a small request that's easy to say yes to, then following up with a larger request. The ultra-successful use it by building momentum and commitment gradually. For example, asking for a brief meeting before pitching a big contract, getting agreement on a minor change before proposing a major shift. Small wins lead to bigger victories. Point 8. Mirroring and matching. Mirroring involves subtly matching another person's body language, tone, or speech patterns. It creates subconscious rapport and trust. Ultra-successful persuaders use mirroring carefully and naturally to build connection without mimicry. Point 9. Anchoring. Anchoring is the cognitive bias where people rely heavily on the first piece of information offered. For instance, setting a high initial price makes later offers seem more reasonable. Anchoring can also apply to emotions. Starting with positive energy sets a favorable tone. Point 10. The power of pause and silence. Silence is a powerful tool often overlooked. Pausing after making a point creates space for reflection and signals confidence. In negotiations, silence invites the other party to fill the gap, sometimes revealing valuable information or making concessions. Point 11. Positive body language and open gestures. As explored earlier, your nonverbal cues support your message. Open gestures, relaxed posture, and appropriate eye contact invite trust and receptivity. Point 12. Building rapport with personalization. People respond best when they feel seen and understood. Using someone's name, remembering details about their life or preferences, and tailoring your message to their unique context strengthens connection. Point 13. Using because to justify requests. Research shows people are more likely to comply when given a reason, including a simple because provides justification, even if the reason is straightforward. For example, could I borrow your notes because I was absent yesterday? 14. The contrast principle, presenting two options or scenarios side by side can make one appear more attractive. For example, showing a premium product first can make the standard option seem more affordable. Point 15. Story selling, combining story and sale. This advanced technique weaves product or idea benefits into a compelling narrative that emotionally engages and persuades. Final thoughts on tools and techniques. The ultra-successful don't rely on just one technique. They have a rich toolbox. They know how to apply, combine, and adapt, but tools alone aren't enough. They must be wielded with integrity, empathy, and authenticity. Master these tools. Practice them thoughtfully, and you will increase your influence exponentially, not by manipulation, but by meaningful connection. In the next chapter, we will dive into mastering digital persuasion, how to leverage technology and online platforms to multiply your persuasive impact in today's world. Let's continue. Chapter 10. The secret of consistency. When we think about persuasion, we often focus on the big moments, the speeches, the pitches, the dramatic conversations. But one of the most powerful and often overlooked forces behind lasting influence is consistency. Consistency is the quiet engine that powers trust, credibility, and ultimately, persuasion. It is what turns a one-time interaction into a lasting relationship. It's what separates the fleeting yes from the committed let's do this. In this chapter, we'll explore why consistency matters so much, how the ultra-successful harness it, and practical ways you can build this secret weapon into your persuasion skills. Why consistency matters more than you think. Psychologists have found that people crave predictability and stability in their interactions. When you act consistently, whether in your behavior, your messaging, or your values, you become reliable. People begin to expect certain things from you, and that expectation creates comfort and trust. This trust is the foundation of persuasion. In contrast, inconsistency breeds doubt, confusion, and ultimately resistance. When your words and actions don't align, or when you send mixed signals, people hesitate to follow. The consistency principle in psychology. One of the key persuasion principles identified by psychologist Robert Cialdini is the consistency principle. It states that once people commit to something publicly or internally, they tend to behave in ways consistent with that commitment. Humans naturally want their words, beliefs, and actions to align. Ultra-successful persuaders understand this principle and use it thoughtfully. They get people to make small commitments first, a nod, a verbal agreement, a minor action. They reinforce those commitments over time. They guide people gradually toward bigger decisions. This approach makes persuasion less about pressure and more about natural momentum. How consistency builds trust and influence. Trust is often earned slowly, but lost quickly. Consistent behavior builds a track record. People remember how you show up day after day, whether you follow through on promises, if your values and words remain steady in changing circumstances. When consistency becomes part of your personal brand, it becomes a persuasion multiplier. People are more likely to listen, believe, and say yes because you have demonstrated that you are dependable. Practical ways to cultivate consistency in persuasion. Be clear about your values and message. Ultra-successful persuaders have a core set of values and messages they stand behind. This clarity helps avoid confusion and builds alignment. Make sure your communication reflects what you truly believe. Follow through religiously. Say what you will do, and then do it. Nothing kills persuasion faster than broken promises or unmet expectations. Create rituals and habits. Consistency is easier when it's built into your daily routine. For example, starting meetings the same way, using signature phrases or stories in your pitches, following a process for follow-up conversations. Rituals create a predictable experience that builds trust. Maintain emotional consistency. Stay grounded and calm even in challenging situations. Emotional ups and downs can confuse others and reduce your persuasive power. Consistent listening. People notice when you truly listen every time you engage. Listening consistently shows respect and builds deeper connection. Small commitments lead to big changes. Remember, consistency works best when you help others make small, manageable commitments first. A yes to a minor request often leads to yes to bigger asks later. This is called the foot in the door technique, and it leverages the human desire to act consistently with past behavior. Example, ask someone to answer a quick question before pitching a product. Get agreement on a small idea before proposing a larger plan. These small wins pave the way for long-term influence. Beware of inconsistency and mixed signals. Inconsistency creates friction and resistance. Mixed signals like saying one thing and doing another, or fluctuating moods and messages, damage your credibility. That ultra-successful persuaders monitor themselves carefully to avoid this. They stay aligned internally and externally. Consistency in digital and remote persuasion. In today's digital world, consistency is even more important. Your online presence, emails, social media posts, and virtual meetings must all reflect the same message and values. When people interact with you across platforms, the experience should feel seamless and trustworthy. The long game, patience and persistence. Consistency is not about instant results. It's a long game, building influence through consistent action takes time and patience. But the payoff is enormous. Durable relationships, stronger reputations, and deeper trust. The ultra-successful embrace the long game. They show up every day, keep their promises, and maintain their standards, no matter what. Closing thoughts. For this chapter, the secret of consistency is simple but profound. Be the person others can count on, reliably, repeatedly, and authentically. Your consistent presence, actions, and message become a beacon that draws others in naturally. When you combine consistency with the other persuasion skills we've covered, emotional intelligence, storytelling, objection handling, and more, you become unstoppable. Persuasion isn't a moment. It's a lifestyle. In the next chapter, we'll explore how to develop your personal persuasive style, because no one is more persuasive than the person who is authentically themselves. Let's continue. Chapter 11. Building your influence legacy. Influence is not just about what you achieve today. It's about the mark you leave behind. The ultra-successful understand that true persuasion extends beyond immediate wins. It's about creating a lasting legacy of trust, respect, and impact that continues to grow long after a conversation ends or a deal is closed. In this final chapter, we explore how to build your influence legacy, how to craft a reputation and presence that empowers others, transforms communities, and shapes your personal and professional world for years to come. The difference between influence and legacy. Influence is the ability to change minds, behaviors, or decisions in the moment. Legacy is the enduring footprint you leave on people's lives and the world. While influence can be transactional, legacy is transformational. The ultra-successful shift their mindset from "what can I get?" to "what can I give?" They seek to leave things better than they found them, whether in relationships, organizations, or society. Why building an influence legacy matters. It creates meaning beyond success. Achievements like promotions, sales numbers, or awards feel good, but they're often temporary. A legacy rooted in influence and impact provides deeper fulfillment. It attracts opportunities people want to work with, follow, and support those who have a positive, lasting reputation. It multiplies your impact. Legacy means your influence echoes through the lives you touch, creating ripple effects far beyond your immediate reach. Foundations of an influence legacy. To build a powerful legacy, focus on these core foundations. 1. Authenticity. Legacy begins with being true to yourself. People sense authenticity, and it builds trust faster than any polished image. Embrace your values, strengths, and even vulnerabilities. When you show up as your real self, your influence feels genuine and magnetic. Point 2. Service mindset. The ultra-successful persuade not to dominate, but to serve. They ask, "How can I help? What value can I add? How can I empower others?" Legacy is built on service, generosity, and lifting others up. Point 3. Consistent integrity. Do what you say you will do. Stand by your principles even when it's hard. Integrity is the glue that holds influence and legacy together. Without it, influence crumbles. Point 4. Emotional connection. People don't remember what you said. They remember how you made them feel. Building emotional bonds creates a legacy of loyalty and respect. Strategies to build your influence legacy. Mentor and develop others. Sharing your knowledge and nurturing growth in others spreads your influence exponentially. Invest time in coaching, teaching, or simply listening deeply to those around you. Create meaningful content, whether through writing, speaking, videos, or social media. Sharing ideas that inspire and educate builds your legacy footprint. Lead with vision and purpose. Communicate a clear, compelling vision that others want to rally behind. Purpose-driven influence lasts longer than transactional power. Build networks of trust. Relationships built on trust and mutual respect create a community that supports your legacy. Focus on quality, not quantity. Leave tangible impact, whether it's a successful project, a philanthropic effort, or a cultural shift. Tangible contributions solidify your influence. Legacy. Overcoming challenges on the legacy path. Building a legacy is a marathon, not a sprint. Challenges include short-term pressures, the temptation to focus on quick wins over long-term value, criticism and setbacks, staying true amid doubt and adversity, balancing influence and humility, remaining grounded while leading boldly. The ultra-successful face these with resilience, learning, and unwavering commitment to their vision. Reflecting on your influence legacy, ask yourself, what do I want to be remembered for? How do my daily actions align with that vision? Who am I empowering to carry my influence forward? What stories do people tell about me when I'm not in the room? This reflection guides purposeful action every day. The ripple effect. Influence beyond your lifetime. True legacy transcends time. The values you instill, the lives you touch, and the systems you shape continue to ripple outward long after you've stepped away. By building your influence legacy, you become part of something bigger than yourself. Closing thoughts for this chapter and the book. Persuasion is a skill, a mindset, and ultimately, a legacy. The ultra-successful don't just persuade. They inspire, uplift, and transform. Your influence legacy is the story you write with your actions, your words, and your heart. Start building it today, one meaningful connection at a time. Thank you for joining this masterclass journey. May your persuasion skills empower you to create a legacy that matters. Conclusion. As we reach the end of this masterclass, it's time to reflect on the incredible journey you've undertaken. The journey toward mastering persuasion at the highest level. Persuasion is far more than a set of techniques or clever phrases. It is a profound human skill, rooted in connection, empathy, integrity, and authenticity. The ultra-successful understand this deeply. They don't see persuasion as manipulation or trickery. Instead, they see it as a responsibility. The responsibility to influence others ethically and meaningfully, to inspire action, and to build lasting relationships. Throughout this book, we have explored the full spectrum of persuasion skills. The psychological foundations that explain why people say yes. The power of language and storytelling to move hearts and minds. The critical role of emotional intelligence in understanding and guiding others. Practical tools and techniques that the most influential people use every day. The secret of consistency that turns persuasion into lasting influence. And ultimately, how to build a legacy of influence that transcends time. Each chapter was designed not just to inform, but to transform. Because persuasion is not something you master overnight. It is a lifelong practice, a craft refined through intention, experience, and reflection. Your path forward, now that you've gained this knowledge, the most important step is to apply it. Practice these skills in your daily life, in your work, and in your relationships. Start small if you need to. Observe how people respond. Adjust your approach with humility and curiosity. Remember, the goal is not to win arguments, but to build bridges. As you grow your persuasion skills, keep these guiding principles close. Lead with empathy. Communicate with clarity. Act with integrity. Stay consistent in your message and actions. Listen deeply before you speak. The true measure of persuasion, the true measure of your persuasive power, isn't how many yes you get, but the quality of your influence, the trust you build, the respect you earn, and the positive change you create. Persuasion that harms or coerces may win short-term battles, but it will lose the war of lasting influence. The ultra-successful win both by inspiring belief and by uplifting others. Thank you for investing your time and attention in this masterclass. Your commitment to learning these skills is a sign of your dedication to personal growth and meaningful connection. Remember, persuasion is a gift and a responsibility. Use it wisely and generously. Final encouragement: go forth with confidence. speak with purpose, listen with heart, and build a legacy of influence that changes lives for the better. Your journey is just beginning.